that's all right.
Hey, it just migrated.
Yeah, it's I had a lot more hair about a week ago. My hair was all the way down.
You did get a haircut. Look
I had to chop all that shit off, man.
I got to do something. Either chop this off or this off. I'm starting to look a little homeless.
Yeah, you popped in without the hat on for a second. I was like, "Who the hell is that?"
Where the fuck's fucking? Where's Sky?
Sky, he's coming on. I just clicked the button, and we are officially live. So I was going to bring that up. Sky is running a little behind, but he promised us he was not going to miss this episode. So he is going to be here as soon as he can. But in the meantime, as always, I'm Jake.
And I'm Gabe.
And we're coming back again for episode 25 of Flippin' 10. Today we will be joined by the great Scott Eipper. And
fucking great, mate. I'm not that great.
I'm
just a snake shit cleaner like everybody else. I'm nothing fucking.
I'll be honest. The reason I hadn't scheduled this earlier was because I was a little nervous. I'm like, man, this is freaking Scott Eipper, dude. I gotta hype myself up for this, man.
Nah, man, I'm just a fucking another person, buddy. Nothing fucking special. I'm just as passionate about chasing fucking reptiles as the next person and amphibians, And that's the thing, right? Is that people get this fucking idea that they're better than somebody else or they're worse than somebody else. I got the same fucking passion as everyone else.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And if someone wants to be a dick, we can all be dicks at the end of the day, right? I'd rather just be a reasonable person at the end of the day, and just because I might have been doing it for a minuscule amount of fucking time doesn't make me better than somebody else. It doesn't mean that my experiences are more valid than someone else's experiences or my opinion is more fucking important than someone else's. It just at the end of the day, right? You can go out. It's sometimes the best things that I've ever done, and we're completely digressing. I'm taking off the rails already.
Not at all.
Some of the best experiences I've had is being in the field is when I've been out with entomologists and botanists and birdos and mammalogists and stuff like that, right? They are so fucking passionate and they are so excited about all these other things that you see out in the scrub that I would usually just walk past and go, oh yeah, that was a pretty bug, or that was a interesting looking plant, or whatever. It just literally goes through. But what you end up getting, right, is because you go, oh, he's passionate. You start to get the passion as well for those other things, and you get excited. And the next time you're in the scrub, and you see a land cray or something like that, and you say, oh, there's a Euascus. How cool is that? And you move through and you have a look, and it just gives you this appreciation for the environment more so. And at the end of the day, these animals are just a small part of an environment, and learning how they interact with their environment enables you to see the other parts of the puzzle as well. And it might be much more clear to hear birds screaming in the background as opposed to you seeing the snake that's moving through the tree that the birds are reacting to. Right. So you can use how reptiles sit in the environment, how other animals that aren't reptiles and amphibians in the environment react to them to actually help you find those animals as well.
Yeah, and that's a big thing that we try to do on here is yes, we're reptile enthusiasts or herp enthusiasts at the end of the day, but also we really try to push to pay attention to everything going on around you, because at the end of the day, if you're not finding snakes, you can find a whole lot of other stuff between cool plants, cool amphibians, cool bugs, Gabe's a great example of that. Gabe's a naturalist in his area, and he knows a lot about a lot. We're walking around. He's like, oh, dude, this is the coolest mushroom ever. And I'm like, I don't know shit about that, but that's really cool that you do,
What did it taste like, Gabe?
They're pretty fun guys.
It's funny. One of my favorite YouTube channels is Crime Pays, but Botany doesn't.
Right? Oh, I've seen that. Yes,
that is so good. It is such a. He likes herbs too, right? So he shows herbs and shit like that as well. But he gets so excited over a flower or a herb or something like this, and it's just this is really, really interesting. And you start to start to get an appreciation for other things other than herbs.
I'm like that with birds a lot. Like a lot of my herping friends kind of tease me about birds, but I'm like, man, I love birds. When I started getting into, I was into photography for a while. I haven't done it in a long time, but like whenever I wasn't able to photograph snakes, like I was photographing birds and everything else, and I grew such an appreciation for all types of birds and learned a ton about them, of all the species around here. And
Well, Jake,
I truly
birds are
enjoy them.
just warm-blooded reptiles.
Oh yeah,
Feathered
100%.
reptiles. It's all our feathered reptiles.
Yeah, they're the closest thing to dinosaurs we actually have. Like,
Absolutely.
it's awesome, man. I love it to death. I love all wildlife, and we try and, although we're obviously very herping oriented, we definitely try to push, more than just the snake attributes of it.
They can really turn a slow day around too. I mean, you're having a slow day finding herps, and you find, oh, look at this, for example, cool mushroom, or look at this cool bird. I mean, it can just turn your slow day around like that.
Yeah.
Fuck, I disagree. If you're having a slow day, work harder. That's a you problem. That's not the environment problem. That's a you problem.
Yeah, if it's a slow day for you, you're not looking at the right stuff, man.
That's right.
Like,
pick your mark, right? And if it's winter, you've got winter breeding amphibians, you've got autumn breeding amphibians, you've got spring breeding amphibians, you've got summer breeders, right? So hit the right ones at the right location at the right time, and then same thing with the herbs. It's funny, like the flipping tin's an interesting name, right? I don't necessarily have an issue with flipping tin, but you can do a hell of a lot of damage when you start to flip natural cover.
Oh yeah. Right? Oh yeah.
And so and look, I'm not going to say I've never fucking done it. I've flipped plenty of fucking rocks and logs and shit like that over the years, but now I tend to push myself to go to those locations when those animals are active. Yeah. And rather than opening and rather than flipping over a rock, which you put back, in all the rest of it, trying to maintain that humid seal, that seal that sits around those rocks and stuff like that, is almost impossible. Right? Like you can push the leaf litter back, you can push everything back, but it's still not going to sit and seal exactly the way it should, and that leads to loss of humidity in those areas, which could lead to shedding and could lead to, particularly in xeric environments and stuff like that, could actually mean some pretty serious habitat loss to shelter sites to some of those things. A bit different with
a lot of that with the bark. Everyone wants to peel bark, and we're always, hey, you can peek under loose pieces, but if it's going to destroy all the bark on that tree, is it really worth destroying habitats for what could be the next 2-3 seasons for the snake or even the other animals that utilize it?
Yeah, because there's
you can make your own.
Oh yeah.
Because you use carpet.
Yeah, carpet or burlap. Oh yeah.
Carpet, and then just nail it. That's the other thing, right? You can also use, if you take a hammer with you and some nails, right, you can actually put bark back on to the trees, right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing if you are doing some stuff where you might end up, when you peak, it damages the bark and it starts to slip down the tree or something. You can sort of push it back and then put a nail back in it to hold it back in place.
Yeah, we've talked about that briefly before on here for sure. I feel like a lot of people don't put the effort into that, and it's definitely something I feel like we should look into more. But like our biggest thing is like when people just come up, because like me and Gabe have gone to areas in a forest to where you could tell a herper had been through there, because every tree that had been dead or dying, it was just freshly peeled. You could see the wet marks on the dead tree, and it was like every single one. And it was like, damn, dude, like you ain't had to do all that, like you're destroying habitat here. It's not just about the one snake that might be under there, it's about everything else that utilizes those, the frogs, the bugs, like there's so many things that utilize, just that piece of bark that's stuck to a dead tree, man. Like everybody looks at it as such a minute thing, but it's like it's not, it's a mini ecosystem right there. Like
it's funny, right? There's a funny old story, and I'll digress real quick onto this one, right? But there's a dad and a daughter, and they're walking along the beach, right? And the dad and the daughter are walking along, and the daughter's running along, and she's grabbing the starfish, putting the starfish back into the water, right?
Mhm.
And the dad turns around, and after she does that 3 times, I guess, what are you doing that for? And he goes, it's not really making a difference. It's just going to get washed back under this. Well, it's going to make a difference to that starfish, right? So that's the sort of takeaway from this, right? Is that, it's not going to make shit of a difference if you don't put a piece of bark back, to be fair, right?
Yeah, of course.
But it is going to make a serious difference to the animals that are using that piece of bark, right?
Exactly.
So, at the end of the day, right, don't be so fucking selfish and do the right thing. It's as simple as that.
It's ignorance in the end. Like, it doesn't affect you directly, but like you said, that one creature that utilizes it, man, that's that's basically the equivalent of someone coming in, stepping on your house and saying "fuck you" and walking away. Like, it's
Well, that's exactly what it is, right? It doesn't make a difference in the scheme of things in the size of the United States, but it makes a fucking difference to you.
Exactly.
And it ain't a public library, mate, Jack and Brandon. I don't necessarily miss a Mr. Bottle might work in a few spots if you just flip it. But the issue is the seal. It's not so much the moisture that you lose; it's the seal that doesn't come back, and it's sort of a hard thing to say. Like when you lift it up, right, you can feel it's almost like a vacuum seal that holds it in. It's being held in by the moss and the leaf litter and all that sort of
100%.
stuff. The minute that you lift that all breaks, and it doesn't necessarily go back exactly the way it should be.
I've honestly never thought about that specifically. I'm glad you brought that up because that is going to make me kind of change possibly the things that I flip, because there's been a lot of rocks. Like, it's crazy how much lighter it is once you pick it up. It's up and it's like, wow, it wasn't so hard, but like getting it up from that point, because all that, and you can hear the just like, it sucking out of that. And I've never thought about that. That's interesting.
It's worse on rock.
Yeah.
So when it's rock on rock and you've got that moss and that lichen layer that holds it all into place,
right,
that's when it's worse, right? Where you've got just leaf litter and stuff like that around the outside, I mean, you can sort of push it back and all the rest of it. But you'd know the same thing like with your tin spots and shit, right?
Yeah.
And your board line. How many times did you go through and you see a board line that just gets fucking smashed, right? Because people are just hitting it every other fucking day, and there's nothing under it. Whereas when you go back there, you go to one, like I've got one that I look at like once every fucking maybe 2 years, right? And it's sometimes I use a GPS to find it, right? Because it's hard work, right?
Yeah.
And there's like me and 2 other guys go to this one site, and it's a secret site, right? And it needs to be a secret site, but at the same time, when we go there, like we need to push all the fucking leaf litter and shit like that that amalgamates over the top of it. But you go to other sites that people know, and it's literally like that piece of tin probably been flipped 4 times this week.
Right.
Nothing's fucking sitting under it because it's just trashed. So.
We had a tin site get hit like that before out at the study site, and it got hit so heavy that you could just see, like, you flip the tin up and it's like, wow, it's dry under here. This was wet last year, because people are, when someone's coming by flipping it once every couple weeks, I mean, it doesn't even give it a chance to form that seal. And at that point, your tin site's pointless. Yeah, you might hit a skink or like a Decay's brown snake or some little small bullshit animal that wanders under there. Not that they're not bullshit, but you'll get a few odd and end things here. But I mean, overall, it defeats the purpose of a tin field or a tin site, a flip site, once it loses that seal and that moisture underneath.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Gabe, you're big on that. Like, we've, herping with you, we've gone to certain places, or we passed by some sites that I knew, and I was like, what about that? You're like, oh, that was hit a month ago. We need to let it sit, and I'm like, okay, like that's cool. And then you go back. This one hasn't been flipped in 6 months. We're gonna go check this out. Like,
I had one site that I used to go to, and it was a good site. Had probably 90 to 100 sheets there, and most of the sheets were 6 meters long by 870 mil wide, so standard roofing sheets. And so I had them sort of laid out in like a grid pattern, and I would only ever flip every second sheet.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter if something went under that one that was next to it. I was like, no, it doesn't matter. It's okay. I'll only ever do 50%. And then the next time I come back and do the other 50%.
Yeah.
Right. And like I'd get anywhere between 8 and 10 elapids under this site. And then you get blue tongues and all sorts of other things there as well. And, if I flipped all of it at once, then yeah, probably I'd turn up more. But I found that was a better way to do it, and it just seemed to maintain the stuff, and it didn't seem to damage the stuff. But then every now and then, right, I'd also need to, because I had this site for 10 years, I had to move the stuff as well, right? So then the other thing I would do is I'd flip it, and then 6 months, and then what I would do is I'd shift it, and then it'd go under new vegetation, so it'd kill down some new veg, so there was new veg underneath it, and so the animals would have a way to move in amongst the veg that was dying, and then also they'd have sort of empty spots and stuff like that as well. So they had those choices. So yeah,
Like it.
And Scott, this is a cool technique we use that you might already use it, but it's a really cool way to get the tin really started.
Yeah.
So we kind of make a little indentation underneath the tin, just maybe an inch deep, if that.
Yeah.
Take some grain or a piece of corn and toss up under there to encourage the rodents to come and forage for food. And it'll encourage the rodents to go up under there, which then food for the snakes that are going to go up under the tin. And so it kind of
like baiting
process a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of baiting.
Yeah. Fucking baiting. Hey, I'm not. I don't mind that. That sounds all right. That sounds pretty good. It's a different way of doing it. I never thought of that actually. That's a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's awesome, man. Well, I love the way this is already starting, but Scott, if you don't mind, for anybody that's been living under a rock and doesn't know you, can you give us a little bit of background on yourself and kind of how all of this got started and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm in Australia. So I'm from the future, as Justin likes to say. And in the future, we have reptiles, which is good. So you've got something to look forward to. But no, it's not taking the piss anymore. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, right? I'm just a snake person. I like snakes. I like reptiles. I run around the bush chasing them, photographing them, and all the rest of it. And I've had the opportunity to being able to share my information a few times, and so I've written a number of papers, popular articles, and a few books and stuff like that as well. So I really enjoy photography, and because I enjoy photography, I don't necessarily like the photography side of it. I don't mind a bit of art style of it, but what it is essentially for me, and I was talking to a mate of mine about it, but it's hunting. But instead of hunting with a gun, I'm hunting with a camera.
Yeah.
Right. So, my trophy that I get at the end of the hunt is the photo, not the animal that's on the wall. And look, more power to people who like actually hunting and stuff like that. I've got nothing against actual hunting or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I just end up having a camera instead, and I get to look back at it, and then it's pretty cool when you're looking through a book or a magazine or something like that, and you see your photo there, and you're like, shit, how good's that? So it takes you back to that spot. I had my first published photo back in 2000, and I've had, I think I've got photos in like 50 odd publications now and stuff like that across the globe, like. There's books in Chile that's got my photos in it, in the US and all sorts of stuff. So, because I like to take photos and I take a lot of them, and I'm pretty giving with my images as well. I share that stuff. And then the other side of it too is I've got an association with Herp Mapper with regards to the taxonomy side of things. So I help maintain the database there, which I've been very fucking slack on too, to be fair. But I really like Herp Mapper, and it's something that I think everybody that's here that does herp, particularly in the US, but also around the globe, should be using something like Herp Mapper. And the reason I like Herp Mapper over iNaturalist, right, is I know people like iNaturalist as well. iNaturalist, anyone can do anything with that information. Herp Mapper's curated, so it means that everything is automatically restricted to like a county. So there's no specific information that's recorded unless you have an approval to actually have that information. So how do you get that information? That information has to go to the guys that look after Herp Mapper, and they do a submission to that, and they've got to show that they're like a state-based agency or something like that, and then they can supply the specific records if they're public. If they're not public, they don't supply them either, right? So on Herp Mapper, you've got an opportunity for every record that you make is public or private. So if I've got something that's at like one of my personal tin sites or something like that, or something that's a critically endangered species, it's fucking private. Nobody sees it. It doesn't appear on any database. But it's on my phone. I've got the details. And if my phone disappears, it doesn't matter. It's all cloud-based anyway. I can just download it back off the fucking cloud.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really, really good good system. The other thing is too is you can't have a record without a photo or a audio recording.
Okay.
All right. So there is some sort of curation to it and stuff like that as well in that regard.
I had a buddy of mine that he was not exactly sure technically what his master's was, but he was working towards being a herpetologist here, and he was big on Herp Mapper. We would go road cruise, and every single time we road cruised anything, he'd pull out his phone and upload it to Herp Mapper. And that was the first time I had heard of it. I haven't really messed with it much, but I had heard about it through him using it.
So it's a free app, right? You can download the app. It works on the GPS on your phone, so it doesn't require internet or anything like that to do that. You have to have an account with Herp Mapper as well. So you set up an account on the website, then you link it back to your phone. Really, really fucking simple. Yeah. And then what you do is you put your record in. It has a whole heap of prompts. Once you follow the prompts, it has species lists in it, so it's nice and simple. Put it back in, punch it in. It'll say, do you want to take a photo or do you want an audio recording? You do what you need to do, and then you save the record, and that's it. All right. You can have the opportunity to say it's DIR. You can put notes in. You can public notes, private notes, etc. And then at the end of the trip, when you come back into service, you can hit sync. Right. Okay. And if you've got 50 records that are sitting there, it'll just plot away and then sync the records, and then that's that. But that goes into things like conservation agencies can then use your herb mapping stuff, right, as a means. If you found something that's of conservation significance, you've got that information. It's date stamped, it's GPS, it's tagged, there's a photo that goes with it so it can be verified. It makes for much better citizen science than, say, fucking iNaturalist.
Yeah, so it's not like anybody can jump on Herp Mapper and see where people were pinpointing, species of concern in certain areas or anything like that.
Yeah. And you can, and again, right, if it's something that you're concerned about, keep it fucking private.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's that simple. You keep it private. Right. Like, to give you, like, some of the people are involved in it. Justin Michaels is involved in it. Mike Pingleton, who does a podcast that I'm assuming a lot of people. Or something. Yeah. So much Pingle, which is a good fucking listen to be fair, right? Sure. And like, it's global too. That's the other thing. That's what I fucking love about it. Right? I was in Europe and I'm like recording a fucking adder in Europe. I'm recording vipers in Indonesia and snakes and stuff in Samoa and all sorts of shit, right? So wherever I go, I've got a list of the shit that's there. Yeah. So pretty cool in that sense too.
That's incredible, man. I like that. So maybe everybody, because we have talked about iNaturalist on some episodes, talking to people about whether it's good or bad, and it's hard to say where I personally stand on it, because like it can help somebody like me, you know, if I'm targeting a certain species or if I'm in a new county and I just want to see what's around, it's great for somebody like me that just wants to know, but it's not that can be used for bad as well, you know. So it's
I personally don't use iNat just because of the worries with oh nice.
There it is.
There it is.
I've got to get it right. I've got to fucking figure out how to use this fucking thing so it works it. But yeah, I'm more than happy if people want to know about it or anything like that. I'm more than happy to put up a couple of records. Like I'll send some screenshots through or something like that. And what I'll do is I'll actually show you what a conventional record looks like, and then I'll show you a private record, right? And so you can see the difference between the two. And I don't care. I'll give you the private record for like an Asian house gecko from a house or something fucking silly like that I don't really give a shit about, right? But that's good. It's good for like introduced species as well, right? You can then start mapping things like, you know, the spread of Bufo marina, of Rhinella marina, or Python buvitatis, or, you know, agamas in Florida, or tegus, or whatever you might want to do, right? It gives you that opportunity.
So can you like mark your own map that nobody else can see? Like
Fuck
if you
yeah.
want GPS coordinates of, say, like
Keep it private.
Yeah, a rat
Just
snake
keep it private, man. Yeah,
Okay.
keep it private. You can have so I've got records in there for things like Phalaris carbi, right? Now, Phalaris carbi is a critically endangered gecko. The only place it's found in two places. The two places it's found is also the location where you have a critically endangered skink, right? Both of those species are very serious in regards to habitat destruction, but also there's a high threat of poaching and stuff like that for the overseas sort of smuggling and shit like that, right? And so because that's there, right? I've got those as private, right? Those records do not exist in the public space,
right?
But I have them. Right. So then if somebody goes, and I had a phone call from one of the researchers when they saw my photo of Carby up there, and he goes, "I see you got a photo of Carby." He goes, "Do you know where you found that?" I said, "Yep." I said, "Give you down to the meter." Right. And it tells you the accuracy of the GPS as well, whether it's 24 meters or 5 meters or whatever. And so you can give that, and it gives you elevation, it gives you all that stuff. It gives you your output data as well, whether it's WGS or whether it's a different system, so that you can plot it properly. And yeah, it's a really good system.
Now, Scott,
and I love the security aspect of it as well.
What happens if you say you're out in the field and you don't have good cell service and you're trying to put a pin on a spot?
It doesn't use it. It uses GPS.
It's already
Have you got? No, it uses the GPS.
Oh, so it's legit using the GPS. Okay,
it's using the GPS that's on your phone, right? Yeah. So you know how you got Google Maps or Apple Maps on your phone, right? Depending on whether you're an Android user or a heathen, right? You like that little shot there?
Yeah.
Guess what I use?
I couldn't.
So you know, whether you're an Android user or a heathen, right? You still got a GPS on there, right? So you just have to, as long as you've got reasonable sky coverage, it'll pick up on the up on the satellite.
And then you said it would
sync. Hard sometimes in the rainforest, to be fair, but
and then you said it would sync. You said it would sync once you get service, right? Like it would.
Yeah, it just comes up as a pending records, right? And then you just hit your pending records when you come into service, and then it just syncs it back.
Yeah. Okay. Our buddy Jack.
It only syncs when you want it to sync too, right? So you can have it, so it's just not currently like automatically uploading as you're wandering around the scrub either. So
our buddy Jack asked if you could do like groups. So like, could I personally share with like, say, Jack and Gabe, like, hey, there's a spot. If you guys are ever passing through, go down it, you know, something like that.
I don't know. I think you can. I think there is a way that you can do something like that. But at the end of the day, right, it's your own record too, right? You can always go online, pull up the actual record, right, that goes down to your meterage, and it spits out, like when you look at it, it gives you like this Google Maps picture and everything that sits there as well. It's pretty funky in that regard. once you get that, you can just like screenshot that, or you can copy the details and then
just
send that
send the
across to your mate
details,
anyway.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like that.
So there's a few different opportunities to it. So yeah, and the other thing is too, right, for the people that are like that way inclined, right, it's got like little badges and numbers and shit like that. So you can do like a quest to get, you get a thing for your first 100 records, and then your first 1,000 records, and records across multiple countries, and mobile records versus old records. So that's the other thing. You can go on the computer and go, if you've got like a CSV file or something like that in Excel that's an export from like Apple Maps or from your notes page or something like that, you can actually input that data, and then you can put that back into that as well.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I like
so
that,
pretty
man.
cool in that regard, right? It's got some science there that you can share, but you can be a selfish prick and keep it to yourself too if you want.
I like that for sure. It's definitely easier than like Apple Maps, because like right now, like if I'll collect rat snakes in certain areas for projects, and I like to get GPS coordinates on those, and I just have to plug them into Apple Maps. And one, it's not always the most accurate, but two, the service completely dictates on whether you can actually get a proper location on it to actually mark something. So yeah, that's
really cool. Cool. So go on.
Yeah. So a question we like to ask everybody on here is kind of because I know you're also a keeper of snakes, mostly elapids, as far as I understand. But so what came first? Were you a herper before a keeper, or a keeper before a herper?
No, herper before a keeper. Herper before a keeper, because when I was a kid, all right, I just never grew up. So I talk to my wife. She tells me I still haven't fucking grown up, which is 100% fair. To be fair, so my wife's an absolute saint. So I started chasing lizards and stuff like that, like little skinks and stuff like that when I was a kid. Came across a tiger snake when I was 5 years old. Somehow didn't die. Caught that, didn't die.
Caught it.
Caught it, brought it home. Put it in the lizard cage. It was out the back. It ate the skinks and that were living in the lizard cage. Dad found it, picked it up, put it into a bucket, and then took it back out to where it was and let it go. And then I couldn't sit down for a week. And then the same. So it was just like this war of attrition, right? So, eventually they decided that, he's going to keep chasing stuff. And so I ended up getting a license, and then I started keeping venomous in my early teens, and haven't stopped since.
That's cool, man.
So, but then also too, on top of that, I keep varanids. So we've got parentes and stuff like that as well, and then blue tongues, and we do wildlife demonstrations, which is sort of a bit like outreach, I suppose. But then we also do industry awareness stuff as well. So there's safety for industry and snake management courses and stuff like that as well. So we've been teaching for 20 years in regards to moving problem snakes, stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think the biggest difference between Australia and here is like you guys. What is ringing?
That ain't me.
Gabe.
Hold on 1 second.
The phrase of that is carton.
Yeah.
You know what that is, don't you? He owes people a carton, I think, for that one.
For sure.
Or is that a box of beer? Do you call it a box of beer over there? Or you call it a carton or a slab? What do you call it?
What?
Beer.
Oh, beer. It's a 12-pack, man.
12-pack. Yeah, well, at least it's a 12-pack.
Yeah, whatever it is. We don't call it a carton. If it's a carton, it's normally due to cigarettes. You're buying a carton, you're buying a carton of cigarettes. For us, it's a 12-pack, 6-pack, whatever it is.
Yeah, so a carton's 24-pack.
Okay.
So we buy beers by the 24-pack over here.
Yeah.
right? Because we're not women.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Scott, how do you feel about
Jesus,
IPAs?
just got shot then. Actually, you know what, right? I don't tend to drink these days at all
Yeah.
because I'm always playing with venomous snakes, so I don't tend to drink.
That's a good call.
A good thing. That's a good thing.
And like literally, every day I'm fucking around with something venomous. So yeah,
that's definitely the best.
It sucks getting bitten too. Like I've been bitten a few times, and it's not fun. I know you've been bitten, Jake, but yeah,
once, and I don't want to do it again.
Right, Jake, with the one and done club.
Yes, sir. Hopefully. But I feel like the biggest difference. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. I swear you commented on a podcast one time, and you said just everyday herping in Australia isn't really like a thing.
No.
Like you can't just go out and catch snakes randomly because you want to. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you can't. You got to have a permit. So you got to have a scientific research permit to disturb anything that's in the wild. Okay. And so you can opportunistically see things and stuff like that, but you can't catch them and then pose them up for photos or something like that. That requires a permit.
You can't,
and that permit is almost impossible to obtain. It's a scientific permit, so it's got an animal ethics approval that sits with it. All right, and you can't collect stuff because you want to. Let's say you want to keep a blue-tongue lizard as a pet, you got to buy a captive bred one. You can't go and catch one out of the scrub and keep it.
Wow.
Right, and you can't keep stuff, that isn't from Australia.
Yeah, you guys only keep Australian species.
Yeah. You can't. You're not allowed to. Private people are not allowed to import anything or keep exotic species, with the exception of axolotls. Axolotls are the only species of exotic reptile or amphibian that we are allowed to legally keep without a permit or anything like that.
Do you have to have a permit to keep anything, like even if it's captive bred?
Yep. You've got to have a permit. In most states, you have to have a permit for everything.
So that's like that's like a separate permit that's easier to obtain if you just want to keep snakes.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's just a captive wildlife permit.
Okay. So I don't know. This might be a dumb question, but what about all the guys that just go to Australia to herp? Is it
they're breaking the law?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Can people outside of Australia obtain a permit to actually manipulate wildlife? Or is it
if you've got a scientific research permit and you've gone through and done an animal ethics thing, and then you apply for your research permit with the state that you're in, and then it won't be as per any species; it will be specifically targeted to the species that are listed on that permit.
Wow!
Oh, so
that goes for all amphibians, all birds, all mammals, all reptiles, and species of concern in regards to invertebrates and fish.
So this is a big reason I wanted to speak with you about this, because you commented on a podcast one time and you were like, yeah, herping's actually illegal in Australia just for any random person. I didn't know that. And I wanted to delve more into that because I feel like Australia is such a destination herp area for so many people. And
so you can go there. So what you do is you don't go herping, you go walking through the bush.
Right. You just take some pictures.
Taking pictures as you walk through the bush, that's not illegal.
Right. Okay.
Right. But the act of herping and grabbing animals and stuff like that without a permit, 100% is illegal.
Wow.
Right. In regards to Brandon too, those white-lipped pythons in Australia, the southern white-lipped pythons are classed as potentially occurring in Australia, so that's why we've been able to maintain the keeping of white-lipped pythons, and they have not. The local government departments have not and do not understand the difference between Albertisi and Fred Parkeri, which is sometimes known as Meridonalis or Hoserae as well. So whichever name you want to use.
I don't think we accept that last one. If I understand who may or may not have named that.
Let's just say that that I have used, the last name that we used in our most recent book is we used Fred Parkery.
Fred Parkery. Okay. Yeah, that I can get on board with.
Because Meridianalis and Fred Parkery were described in the same paper.
Yeah.
But Meridianalis and Fred Parkery, Fred Parkery came first in the paper. And so when the paper came along later by Natouche that sunk some of the species of white lips that were described, that the earliest available name for the southerns happened to be Fred Parkery, not Meridianalis. And so while Meridianalis was getting a bit of traction, so to speak, the name is actually, and it's in like the pythons of Indonesia and stuff like that. It's actually the correct name is Fred Parkery. That's the earliest available name. So
very good, very good.
I enjoy taxonomy and nomenclature as well, so that's my other thing. So,
yeah, for sure. There's a gentleman from Australia that seems to love put his name on everything, and we don't speak of him around here.
Don't know who you're referring to. So.
I thought you mentioned his name a little bit there in a possible.
No, I wouldn't mention that. I wouldn't mention people who I don't know who they are.
Okay. Well, we're not going to say his name 3 times or else he'll show up.
Just stop talking about that sort of stuff and change the subject.
For sure. Here's a question I had and I lost it, so we're going to move on.
All right. Do you want to start throwing out some photos? Because I threw up a heap of photos from Eipper, which is on the western coast of North Queensland, and then I've thrown up some stuff in regards to wide angle photography and stuff like that as well. So,
I have all the covers of your books saved. We're going to save those towards the end, so we can kind of plug some of your books there. Definitely want to go through some of your stuff here. Oh, the other thing I wanted to get into real quick. So in Australia, is it a little more enforced of not killing snakes? Because I feel like I see a lot more videos. Like I hear about a lot more people as actual licensed snake catchers that people actually call out to catch snakes. And it just seems like there's less people that actually kill snakes on site there.
You can be charged.
Yeah, and it's technically the same here. It's quote unquote illegal to kill snakes, but people do it every single day, and it's not issues.
It's only illegal here on state and public lands. On private land, it's still technically legal and not enforced.
So the thing is, right, is that it's illegal. It is technically illegal. However, if you are threatened or you feel threatened, you are able to break the law in this case in regards to that, so you don't feel threatened anymore. So if you think that snake is going to harm your family and you want to kill it, then they may take you to court. If they take you to court, the judge is going to look at it and go, "No, that's it. Right. Go away. Don't worry about it." So it is illegal. Snake catchers are happy to tell people that it's illegal. Not necessarily. It is technically illegal, but at the same time, no one's basically getting charged for it.
Right. Okay.
Someone doing something stupid, like killing a snake just for fun or something like that and posting it on fucking YouTube like a dick, that's where they get charged. And that's where they have been charged and convicted and convictions recorded and stuff like that, and $5,000 fines and shit like that. Going out there and you're in a paddock and you shoot a snake because there was a fucking snake there, then you're going to get the shit.
Yeah.
Stupid enough to put your name up there. Australia's serious about people fucking around with the wildlife. There was I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but it was all over our fucking news where we had an American hunting person who called herself a conservationist go and catch a fucking wombat and was posting it all over fucking YouTube with the wombat that she grabbed from a baby wombat from a parent, and she was running around playing with it and shit like that, and she effectively got deported.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's That's nuts.
Apparently, she's got a pretty big following on Instagram or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, look, the Australian media ran with it and shit like that, and went crazy about it. But yeah, like she was going to be in a fair bit of shit if she didn't leave.
So, do you think people, I don't know if you've been to the States or not, but do
No,
you,
never been to the US.
okay, do you, I mean, from what you know about us, would you, because from what I see on social media, it seems like people in Australia have a lot more respect of snakes possibly because y'all have a lot more potentially deadly snakes there. But do you think people in Australia have more of a understanding of leave them alone versus the US, or do you
Not
still
really.
have
I think
some
what it
crazy
is.
rednecks that just want to kill everything in sight? Like,
So I think there's two things going on, right? So, one, education. Right, there's a lot of people, myself included, that go out to schools and stuff like that, and have been teaching people for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, that the only good snake is a live snake, not a dead snake, right?
right.
We explain the difference between, this is a snake. If you see this is what you do, right? You see a brown snake over there in front of you, it's not going to come chasing you. Walk away, tell an adult, right? And we ingrain that in the kids, okay? And then the other thing that we do is we explain to the adults that, if you want to die playing with snakes, go and try and kill it. 80% of the snake bites that we have in this country are either due to people trying to catch or kill the snakes. You don't try and catch them, you don't try and kill them, they don't bite you, right?
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. We also have some amazing first aid over here as well. So we use a pressure immobilization bandage and we wrap the bite with that, and then we go to the hospital, and there's anti-venom for all snake venoms in Australia that for most parts is effective. There's a couple of unusual species that the anti-venom isn't greatly suited, but it does work. You polygonal anti-venom, stuff like that. The other thing is that we don't pay for anti-venom or anything like that, or medical care. So we go to the doctors and we go to the hospital with a snake bite, and there's no out of pocket expense for me.
Well, I wish it was like that here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I go to the hospital. I get the anti-venom. I'm put on a ventilator. They do the blood tests. They do the urine tests. The hospital bed itself. The nursing staff. The food that you give them while you're in there. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There is no fucking bill.
Is snake bite pretty common out there? Because when I got bit, I went to the hospital. I was out in Texas. I went to the hospital, and it was almost like nobody really knew exactly what to do or how to handle the situation. Everybody was very kind of running around the chicken with their head cut off. Didn't really know what to do. Is it more common there that doctors know how to deal with snake bite? I can't imagine it's super common.
No, not really. Not really. We've got 28 million people, 29 million people in Australia. All right, we have about 5,000 snake bites a year. The 5,000 odd snake bites a year, of those 5,000, about 1,000 of those are, and these are recorded, right, as well, not including like people getting bitten by the pet carpet pythons or something like that. But 5,000 odd bites a year. Of the 5,000 bites a year, about 1,000 of those are from dangerously venomous snakes that require anti-venom, where we're looking anywhere between 2 and 4 people a year dying from a snake bite. Anti-venom's of a very good quality. It's manufactured in Australia, has been manufactured in Australia for anywhere from some of the older stuff is up to 50 years. 80 years we've been maintaining anti-venom over here for. It's all horse-based, so they're well across horse-based anti-venoms, and then the potential for things like anaphylaxis and stuff like that. So they usually provide it with steroids, antihistamines, et cetera, when they're actually providing it, so to try and minimize the chance of an allergic reaction. We are like the US, a first world country too, right? So we've got good medical care. We've got good access. If we need to fly somebody from a regional hospital to a main hospital in a state, then we can do that too. So there's a lot of options there for us in that regard.
Yeah. I guess
you go across the board, right? You go across the strait into New Guinea, right?
it's a completely
And
different story.
10,000 snake bites a year over there. People walking around in bare feet.
Right.
You may get antivenom, you may not. You
Right.
know, thousands of people. There's a documentary I really urge people to watch if they get the chance. 1 million snake bites. That was put out. If you get the chance to watch that documentary. It's incredible.
Yeah, I will definitely check that out. Where can people find that?
That's on YouTube now, I believe.
On YouTube. 10,000 snake bites. Okay.
1 million snake bites.
1 million snake bites. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's put out by the WHO in regards to how snake bite became one of the top 20 diseases across the globe in regards to people. Right. So basically, I think along the lines of there's like 250,000 people a year killed by snakes across the globe. It's 4 times that are left moribund. Right. So they lose an arm or they lose a hand or a leg or something like that. And it's talking about that and the antivenom crisis that is in Africa and also in Latin America and these places where snakebite is very real and it does kill a lot of people. So
yeah, I guess I more so asked because because it's so uncommon in first world countries like the US and Australia and I'm sure Gabe can speak to the same. A lot of doctors here don't really know what to do when it happens. So you see a lot of people flipping through books when
I had the doctor tell me that I should have defanged the snake.
Yeah.
Look.
I've been on the same sort of deal, right? I mean, dealing with an envenomation that I was bitten by a species that doesn't occur locally, and then I had an argument with the doctors about the identification of that particular animal and all the rest of it. I've got bite protocols as well, like most responsible people do, and so those bite protocols have got my medical history, my wife's medical history in it. In the case of our captive staff, we have removable labels that come off the enclosures that go into that bite pack. So that if we do get an envenomation or we are bitten, suspected envenomation, the label comes off the enclosure, goes with me to the hospital. So that way, if I lose speech or become paralyzed or anything like that, it's pretty evident as to what species has bitten me. Inclusive of that as well as I've got the listings of what hospitals around me stock what antivenom as well. So if it's for a species if it's antivenom that's for a different location, then I've got that information for that as well. So, yeah, all part and parcel of being a responsible venomous keeper.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that pretty much all you keep now is elapids? Or do you keep...
No, we've got colubrids as well, and we've got some pythons and stuff like that. I've got an olive python there that's at least 45 years old.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so he's the current record holder for his species.
That's incredible. I've heard of a ball python getting to like 40 or 45, but
there's a ball that got to 67, I think.
Wow.
It is.
Really?
Yeah, there's a ball that got to 67. There's a Nea melanaluca that got to 37. I had a Collets get to 32.
Wow, man.
Yeah, so snakes live for a fucking long time if you look after them.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. That's why I always have I don't know, red flags when people tell me that their snakes usually die at 10 to 15 years old. I'm like, well, maybe you should change.
Stop feeding it so much.
Yeah.
Let it cool down. Let it cool down in winter and give it options like things like UV light and all that sort of stuff.
It's crazy how simple things can extend the life of your animal exponentially.
So anyway.
Yeah. No, so let's I want to go through some pictures that you sent me because some of these are some of the most incredible pictures I've seen. And you can talk as little or as much as you want about the actual photo and the species or whatever. But I kind of saved them in order.
Ooh.
I mean,
Oh, okay.
your photography is absolutely impeccable.
Oh, I'll take a lot of shit too, mate. Don't worry about that.
Oh yeah, you take 100 pictures for the one good one, you know.
Yeah. So this is so I experiment doing I do a lot of wide angle photography. So wide angle photography is where it's that stuff that's like the animal in habitat type picture, if that makes sense. And I really like that as opposed to just the field guide style photos, right? Because it sort of gives a sense of presence about this. So this is a young black-headed python, found it at sunset at a place called Lake Mundara. So that's why you've got that sunset there in the background. It was up on the top of a hill, and so you've got the reflection of the lake with the sunset in the background. So yeah,
that's incredible, man.
It's a slow shutter speed too, right? Sorry, go back to that one for a second. So it's a slow shutter speed. That's why you got the movement in the tongue to expose the background. So I use a flash to light the foreground, which captures and freezes the snake, and then the background is exposed by taking it. I think that was about a 30-second shot of that photo. So it was taken with a tripod.
Those long exposure shots are hard, man. The fact that you were able to get something this good without the snake moving in the span of like a 30-second, shot, that's incredible, man. It really benefits when you can do those long exposures, because man, the quality is incredible when you can get it. Like, man, that's incredible.
Yeah, cool. All right, we go to the next one. So gained long exposure. So that's a brown tree snake in Brisbane, looking over the city. So we've got snakes that do enter the city, and this particular one was at a friend's house, and they happened to overlook the city, and so had that opportunity to take that photo there.
So while we're talking about these, Gabe, you had a question about
aren't these guys non-native?
No, they're native.
Okay, I want to say I was reading somewhere there was a non-native tree snake in Australia.
No, we've got corn snakes.
Corn snakes, that might have been what it was. Okay,
we've got corn snakes now, unfortunately. And then we've also got
a U.S. native corn snake.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So escaped illegally kept animals, and then
Wow.
So they are invasive on Guam, as Jack says in the crop there. So they probably came over in the Second World War to Guam, and now they've basically wiped out the bird population there.
Jesus.
So
I know there's a brown tree snake or something invasive to another country.
Yeah, Guam, which is a U.S. territory in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. Okay. Incredible. This was one of my favorite pictures you sent me, because like the background looks so it just looks so populated, and you have the beautiful.
That's a city of 3.5 million people. That's the Brisbane River.
That's incredible, man. Like, I love this picture. That's awesome.
Yeah, that one's made its rounds. That's for sure. That one.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
Yeah, that's a roach's eye view of a leaf-tailed gecko. So these things are ambush predators. And so what I was trying to capture there is, we always see leaf-tailed geckos swim straight on, but I was like, well, if you lie down and you look up, here's this pretty incredible looking animal that's sitting there in ambush position, ready to take the next roach or the bug that flies along the rainforest floor. So it took a bit of fucking around to get that photo, but it was certainly well worth it in the end.
So are these all long exposure shots? Like,
yeah, so all these three have all been the first one with the blackhead was about 15 seconds. These ones are all 30 seconds.
Yeah, I could see a 30-second shot being a little easier in a species like this being in that position, like, it's in that ambush zone of not moving and ready to pounce on anything. So
Yeah.
see that being slightly more achievable. That's incredible. And what species of leaf-tailed gecko is that?
This is Saltuarius cornutus. So this is the northern leaf-tailed gecko.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so this is an eastern brown snake, Chiodonea textilis. It's one of the more toxic snakes in the world if you're a mouse.
Yeah. If you're
Well, they test the venom on mice, right? They don't test the
course.
venom on people. So
that's where the LD50,
100%.
anybody that doesn't know, snake venom is tested on mice, and that's how they come up with the LD50, numbers on it, and that's Eastern Browns are up there.
Yeah. So yeah, they're a toxic snake, and people are afraid of them. They always think that they're out to get them, and they're really nervous, and that they're going to try and kill you, and all the rest of it. Not always the case. They can bite you, and they can kill you, and they can do all sorts of mean and nasty things, but they're a lot more scared of you than they are than you are of them. So so in this particular case, this individual was relatively quiet, and I'm sitting about 8 inches away from his nose when I'm lying down taking the photo of that particular animal. So when you take a wide angle photo, you've got to be really close to the subject. And what you're aiming for is you don't want too much in the midground or the foreground. All right. You focus on that, and then you use the infinite part of the lens to focus on the background. So that's how you get the background in focus as well as the foreground in focus. This particular one, I'm shooting into the sun, so into shadow. So I've used yes, Brandon, use potting a plant saucer to curl the animals up first, and you just lift the plant saucer off, and off you go. And then you lie down very quietly in front of it and take the photo, and that was that. So these are often found around farming areas and stuff like that, and where this particular animal was right in front of a heap of farming stuff. So the barbed wire in the background and stuff like that isn't necessarily a bad thing. So I quite like that photo.
Yeah, no, I love that. So what would you say, since we're looking at an Eastern Brown, I feel like one of the more common, venomous species around you, what, in your opinion, is the most feared venomous snake or snake in general in Australia? What do people worry about most?
Oh, look, coastal taipans and Eastern brown snakes are the two.
Yeah.
By far the two. But an Eastern brown snake, even the fastest Eastern brown snake and all the rest of it, and I've worked with brown snakes for over 30 years, the fastest Eastern brown snake is not going to hold a candle to a fast taipan.
Really?
All right. Fast taipans are damn fucking scary snakes. To be fair, they're as fast or faster than black mambas. They are more toxic. They are very fucking nervous. Yeah, I've never kept mambas, but I have kept taipans for a very long time. I've kept brown snakes for a very long time, and you're on your game when you open the enclosure with either species. But what a taipan can do versus what a brown snake can do is not even close.
Yeah.
So,
is there, obviously everybody knows, or most people listening to this know, the inland taipan is, drop for drop the most venomous land snake on the planet. What's the difference in, kind of, I assume you probably keep both. What's the difference in keeping them? Do you worry more about
inlands are like Jekyll and Hyde, right? So
okay,
if an inland is cool, they're much harder to work with because they're much more defensive when they're colder. But in terms of ability, not even close. Inlands are just like a brown snake or something like that. Coastals are insane.
Yeah.
Right. And they get fucking massive too, right? They get to 10 feet long.
Wow.
The first third of their body is fairly light, and then the bottom 2/3 is fairly heavy, right? So it's like a ball on a string when they strike, right? They got this massive great head, and it comes out with such force. And the safe distance on a taipan, depending on the size of the taipan, is probably half the distance of the length of the snake.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
It's wild because the state that we live in currently, it's
You're dealing with that bullshit.
It's frankly a little too easy to acquire some extremely venomous snakes. I remember I was walking through a show one time. I'm not going to name names, but they had a coastal taipan in a tub with some rubber bands over it. It's just a regular latch tub, rubber bands over it, and it was listed on there for like $200. And I'm like, that's pocket change for a lot of people. You can buy one of the most dangerous snakes in the entire world for next to nothing in a tub on with some rubber bands on it. That is insane. And I just it blows my mind, man.
So,
well, we're gonna continue moving on here. That is an incredible photo, by the way.
Thank you.
Oh, shinglebacks!
Wow, that's incredible, man.
Oh, those are so cool.
So these guys pair up for about 6 weeks of the year. So the males and the females will pair up together, and the male will follow the female around everywhere she goes. And then the next year they'll come back and they'll find the same pair, and they'll continually sort of do that same pairing.
So I was about to ask, in captivity, aren't these a species that kind of have to get along together in order to pair? Aren't they one, if they're not compatible, they'll
kill each other? Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So these two were both found under a piece of tin. It was actually the car door of this old FJ. So they were found sitting under a piece of tin immediately next to that. So it took a little bit of. There was another person standing to the left of me when I'm lying down taking that photo, and that is what the two blue. So they were both actually open. They both had the mouth open at the person at the time, but to try and get it both in focus and sitting there with the car the way it was and all the rest of it. So I do like that photo. I think it's a pretty good photo.
Incredible photo, man.
Those are such a cool species.
Yeah.
That's incredible, man. So what's going on here?
So that's a Lusa macuros. That's the Mary River turtle. That's a critically endangered turtle that we've got here. So that particular individual, we were doing some survey work with those, and so I had the opportunity to take a photo of that. So lying down in the river taking the photo. So my lens is about 3 inches or so off the water when I'm taking that photo. So it was a bit of a sketchy sort of a walk across the pond to get to that particular spot to where that was to get that photo. But I'm pretty happy with that, how that came out.
That's about as closest thing to a sea turtle as you'll get, like, around here. Like, to me, from what we see around my area, that looks so much like a sea turtle. It's incredible.
Yeah, so that carapace is about 18 inches long.
Okay, you said 80?
18.
I'll be right back, fellas.
Yeah, you're good, man. That's beautiful, man.
Yeah. Just give me 1 sec. I'm just going to jump off the camera for a second.
No, you're good.
But keep going. I can keep going. Yeah, lying down on my belly in front of a freshwater crocodile.
So what, on this photo, can you talk about a little, any type of experience you have with crocodiles out there? Because everybody knows about the classic saltwater crocodile and how they act out there. What type of experience do you have working with those? or and crocodiles in general, not just saltwaters.
Oh, look, there's two species of crocodile here in the country. We've got salties and freshies. Freshies are obviously they're mainly fish eaters. They don't kill people or anything like that. This particular location, the freshies are very common, and you can sort of creep up to them sometimes if you're really, really careful. So I crawled on my belly for about 50 meters or so to where this croc was basking on the side of the river, and got like 2 photos before he pissed off into the water. So you can see there he's starting to turn to get away from that big lump that was coming up towards him.
And how close were you to this individual?
Oh, I'm like 12 inches away from it.
Holy shit. Man, you go all out for that long exposure, background shot, man. That's that's incredible.
Yeah, it's you've got to get the right photo. So
yeah, hey, you go all out. I did the same for, it's hard to compare alligators to crocodiles in Australia, but I did the same thing with some alligators around here. I belly crawled from very far away and got, frankly, a little closer than people felt comfortable with, but got some really cool photos out of it. And it pays off in the end, man.
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely. I love how you can see the definition in the teeth on this individual, the color of its eye. Like I love this, man. Yeah. Can you tell us what kind of setup you're going with, like as camera wise, like as far as a actual camera body and the lens?
Yeah, so I use a Nikon D750. That's got an 18mm lens on it, using 3 Nikon flashes for the fill flash on that particular photo.
And the D750, that's not a mirrorless, right? That's a DSLR.
Yeah, it's a DSLR. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. I feel like a lot of people focus on mirrorless a little too much, and even though mirrorless I know can take some incredible photos, I'm definitely not knocking that, but I feel like these are great examples of like I feel like a lot of people are disregarding DSLRs a little too much in the modern day, and you can still take some fucking incredible pictures with the DSLR, man.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the mirrorless are great for the mirrorless are great for the low light.
Yeah, for sure.
But these are, I mean, I think the images are fairly proof that the images are fine. So yeah,
I feel like DSLR is better for general wildlife photography, like on the go moving, and the mirrorless is really good for not necessarily staged photos, but they're really good for stuff that is going to stay still. You can get that perfect picture. But I'm a big fan of DSLR for general wildlife photography. There's a very wide range of things you can do with the DSLR. Incredible.
Yeah, for sure. So that's a brown tree snake. Another brown tree that was photographed on the morning of my wedding, actually.
Nice.
Even herping on your wedding day, man. Come on now.
Yeah, well, we got married on a beach, and it was a long way from the sort of from what we were going to do in the morning. So I was like, well, let's go out and see what we can find. And so me and the best man and a couple of other people went out and had a bit of a look. We found a brown tree snake. So we took some photos and got married that afternoon.
I love it. I actually found a rat snake at a wedding around here, and it bit the crap out of me. And boy, I was probably, I don't know, 15 years old, and my mom bitched me out left and right for bleeding all over the house whenever I got back to clean up. That was
yeah fun. So that particular snake may have bit the flower girl in the wedding. Had nothing to do with me, all right? The best man, his daughter was the flower girl, and what can I say?
Yeah, we're just gonna leave it at that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful carpet, dude. Oh my god.
That's on my front fence.
Oh,
Really?
hmm
Wow.
So that was my old front fence, right? And the carpet python occasionally used to sleep in the mailbox,
that's awesome.
right? And so, anyway, so one day I went out there to check the mail, and he was sitting in the mailbox. And I was like, right, okay, I'm coming back out here tonight, and I'm going to see if I can get like a photo of a truck or something like that going past the house with the carpet on the outside. So, yeah, I mean, it's got a few highlights in it. It's not technically perfect. It was from some of my earlier days, but it's still a pretty cool image anyway.
It's a hard picture to take in the dark, but the fact that you got the streaking lights, that's incredible. That long exposure makes such a difference in some of these
Yeah.
photos, man. Like it can really add so many elements to it.
Yeah.
That's incredible, man.
But it does sort of show that how close they are to the environment and stuff like that. So
Yeah. For sure. Ooh.
Olive python in habitat.
This is olive pythons, although they're not, I don't know, the prettiest patterned snakes, like your different carp pythons can come, but like olive pythons just amaze me, man, especially in habitat.
They are the best pythons I reckon that we have.
They're such.
There's something about them, right? They're so. Like, I mean, obviously, I've got cuddles, right, that I've had for 45 years, right? So I can't. I've got like of all of the pythons, right? I love them, right? And anyone who's got Mark O'Shea's Snakes of the World book, like that book of snakes, Cuddles is in that. Cuddles is the olive python that is in that book, right?
Oh, nice.
So it's pretty cool to think that my olive python that I've had since a pet and it's been round the necks of probably 150,000 people over the years as an outreach animal is literally in that book as well, right? So this is, for me, it's like one of those things. It's a pretty cool thing. But I've always loved olives, and you find wild olives, and wild olives are usually cantankerous fucking things that want to bite you. So this one's happened to be up on a rocky ridge. You got some spinifex and stuff like that, and some sappy gum there as well. And these animals live in rock crevices, and they're basically waiting for lizards and snakes, but then when they get bigger, they're waiting for rock wallabies, and they eat rock wallabies and crocodiles. So they'll eat freshwater crocodiles. Yeah, they eat freshwater crocodiles and stuff like that.
That's
wow.
Yeah. They're fucking serious. They're a serious snake.
How big was this individual?
Oh, like 8 feet, something like that. It wasn't a big one.
Yeah, they get
big enough to make it big enough to say that you don't want to get bitten by it.
Yeah, big enough to hurt. What's the largest one you found in the wild?
Oh, like 10 feet, something like that. Nothing huge. I found some pretty good sized scrubbies. I found a scrub python that was about 16 feet.
I always forget you guys have the king horn eye out there.
Yeah.
My God, talk about the king of all scrubs. Those individuals are incredible.
So if people want to see how big they fucking get, there's a YouTube video on my YouTube of that particular individual. And like it doesn't look that big until you see my hand next to it or my foot next to it.
Right.
And then you realize just how fucking big that snake is. So yeah.
The king horn eye are the largest snakes in Australia, correct?
Yeah, king horny are the longest snakes in Australia, and they're the heaviest. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
They've killed people too, eh?
I don't doubt it.
They have killed somebody. We had a person die. We had a couple of other people come close. So
that's one of those fuck around, find out scenarios.
Yeah. Well, I got a little bit of flack about putting them as dangerous in the book, and someone goes, "Why are you calling them dangerous?" And I was like, "Because people have fucking died playing with them." There's no anti-venom for lack of oxygen.
That's such a huge thing for me, is because like people think, the big snakes, in America, here in the U.S., retics, reticulated pythons, and Burmese pythons are such a commonly kept species. And I'm like, these aren't really animals that should be taken lightly at all. Like the very large snakes, you could have them around your neck. You could scare them, and they could snap your neck. You know, like this isn't. They're not a joke. Just because they're not venomous doesn't mean they can't kill you. Like it's not. I don't know. That's a whole other podcast, but
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, the Brandon's just asked what that scrub python was. That was about 18 feet. That one, as I understand it. So
That's a big snake, dude.
Good.
yeah, it's a big fucking snake. I think there's photos of that one in that book by Giant Crutch Snakes by Crutchfield and John Murphy.
Nice, beautiful.
So that's Lophosaurus spinipes. That's one of the dragons that's local to me. So they're a pretty cool lizard. They're an interesting animal in that they're a thermoconformer. They don't actively bask. They just actively sit within the environment and do what they do. So they conform to the environment. So they're really a bit of a different dragon, pretty old, unusual species. That's something that you don't usually get over there. But they're sexually dimorphic as well. So the males are plain in color, and then the females are mottled. So
is this a male or a female?
That's a male.
It's a male. Okay. Yeah, when I was going through the photos that you sent me, like this one stuck out. Like I knew it was some type of dragon, but like it resembles some, but it's also so different at the same time. Like not having such a large crest for one, but the color and the spikes all over it. Like, you know, it's not just on its crest and its legs. You can see it all through the body as well. And it's just
that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, that's incredible.
Oh,
God damn. Yeah, fucking crap it. So this is a carpet python up at a place called Castle Hill in Townsville. And so this particular area there, the carpets up there are what some people call coastals, I suppose. But yeah, just your typical carpet python from up that way. Not particularly happy with that image. I probably would like to, at some point, I don't tend to run my stuff through Photoshop or anything like that hard, and I've got a bit better at it since. So it's one of those images that I want to revisit at some point in time. The blue is a bit too high in that image. The white balance is a bit off. But yeah, a bit of experimentation. There was a football game going on in the background. That's why there's that light there in the background there with the footy stadium there. So
it looks like it's got a fairly large meal in it as well.
Yeah, that I reckon that's eating a pretty good sized rat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh, bearded dragon.
Yeah, and there's sand on the ground where it is too. Yeah,
that's crazy. You're telling me there's not Repticarpet there?
Yeah, there's no carpet or fucking hammock for it, you know. Yeah, no, I threw that in there because people actually like Viticeps and stuff like that, and they you know, they're such an animal that people know so well, but the wild ones look completely different to these captive shit.
So much different.
In the sense that they have a neck and that they have legs.
That's so true.
You know, like those poor lizards are something that is so, like, I'm a fat bastard, right? To be fair, so I can't really. I'm not like I'm slinging shit here or anything like that. But people keep their animals way too fucking fat, right? And they wonder why. They're literally shortening the lifespan of their animals by doing that.
That's one of my biggest things. Like if you choose to be
they
fat,
can climb jack when they're not too fat. You know,
exactly. And it's different of like, you know, if a person is fat, like, you know, a lot of us are overweight. I'm one of them. Like, if you choose to be that, that's on you. That's fine. But when it's your captive animal, you are deciding to overfeed it, and that's a problem. Chubby animals aren't cute. Like, people love a chubby dog, a chubby snake, chubby lizard, and they're like, oh, look at it. And I'm like, no, that's horrible. Don't do that. Like,
I got some shit from some people I put up on there's a couple of photos of Jay Brewer's fucking animals, and I put a photo up of it saying this is not fucking good animal husbandry, this is animal cruelty, right? And I had all these people who Jay Brewer fans fucking messaging me like, "You bastard, you can't say that." And I was like, "Well, fuck." You know, at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, like in my mind, right, simply this, right? It's fucking animal abuse.
It is without a doubt. There's not. You can't argue it. Like I guess you can if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but you can't deny a fat animal. Like if there's no definition, no body tone, no nothing to it. I mean, come on, man. And I feel like it also goes into getting animals so as big as they can, as fast as they can.
They
Like
get pinhead, and then they get pinheads and shit like that. You know what I mean?
Pinheads, they got no neck, no definition. They're like, oh, I got my female carpet up to breed in 3 years. I'm like, what? Like, don't do that. That's far too fast, and that alone is cutting down the lifespan of your animal because you got it up to triple the size of it should be in that amount of time. Like, it's
I like, sometimes I get in a mood where I like fucking with people a little bit, and I'll post photos of wild bearded dragons in a bearded dragon group, and they're like, "It's so skinny." I was like, "No, it's fucking healthy."
This is actually a wild one. Where
this is what they look like. Yeah, but they're muscular too, right? They don't feel like they're a wet fucking sock.
Yeah, I feel like people seem to forget that there are bearded dragons in the wild. Like, they do exist.
Yeah, they live in some pretty shit country too, to be fair, in some some beardies do. Right? It's pretty desolate stuff.
I would honestly love to see a bearded dragon in the wild. Yeah. That would be almost one of the weirdest animals I could herp, because you see thousands of them in captivity here, and
on the right morning, you'll see thousands of them on the roads too. You know, like you do see they can be in pretty high densities, right?
Yeah,
and they do sit up. Like you see them sitting up on fence posts and stuff like that pretty easily, and like you're not necessarily looking for a dragon on a fence post. You're looking for something that sits out of place on that fence post, and that's what stops you and gets you to look at it and stuff like that. I'm not particularly great at seeing dragons as I'm driving. I got a mate, happens to be was the best man at my wedding. Cunt's fucking insane, right? Like you'll be driving 100 k's an hour, frilly, and like, where'd you see that? And he goes, oh, like go back, reverse back, and you go back, and there's like a frilly three trees back from the road, and he's just saw the knee of it stuck out from the side, right? And shit like that. Cunt's fucking eyes are insane, right? But you know the densities of some of these things is pretty incredible, but they're eating like heaps of vegetation. They're eating heaps of insects. Their diet changes at different times of the year. You know, it's pretty awesome. So,
yeah. They're cool animals, man. I think people are really missing out on keeping them properly and naturalistic and feeding them correctly. I feel like people are missing out on just different behaviors you could witness with these things in captivity.
Yeah, and probably shortening their lifespan as well.
Oh, that's without a doubt. I feel like that's the biggest. That is, in my personal opinion, that's the biggest issue in captive keeping of anything, is overfeeding and not keeping them properly. And you're cutting their lifespan in half almost.
I think there's three big things, right? Incorrectly housing the animal in the first place, right? Not giving them enough room. Just because something's surviving doesn't mean it's thriving. Incorrectly heating and lighting the animals, and incorrect feeding regimes.
Yep.
Now, whether that feeding regime is the quantity, the quality, or the type.
Yep.
You know, and, you know, with regards to the heating and lighting, yes, we don't necessarily need to have UV light for everything that we keep. Yes, we don't necessarily need to change the diet. I kept animals for a long time in racks. I've still got some animals in racks. I'm not anti-rack or anything like that, but I am moving away from animals in racks because I'd rather have less animals and keep them better.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
and frankly, right, do I call myself a reptile lover or a reptile keeper? Well, I'm a reptile lover, right? So maybe I should take that love and place it where it should be in regards to doing the very best I can for the animals that I'm keeping. Because at the end of the day, right, I'm the ultimate one that's responsible for that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think as keepers, we should all maybe occasionally go back and have a look at ourselves from an objective point of view and ask what we're doing when we're keeping these animals, and are we keeping them to the best of our abilities, and do we need to keep the quantity that we have, or do we need to breed what we've got, and ask some of those questions to ourselves. And if you're dreadfully honest with yourself, you may not necessarily like the fucking answers.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest issue with a lot of people is they don't really want to, and I'm not taking shots at anybody here, but a lot of people don't want to face the reality of, and I'm honestly probably one of those people. I have more snakes than I should, and a lot of them are in rack systems, and I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm like, maybe I should keep less and keep more quality over quantity.
I also want to be really clear too, right? I'm not fucking rubbishing anyone I'm not imposing anything on how people keep or anything like that. I know some people get a bit touchy about that sort of shit. Fucking at the end of the day, right? You do you. As long as you're keeping the animal healthy and you're doing the right thing, keeping it clean, etc., do whatever you want to fucking do, right?
Exactly.
But I know for myself that, it's one of the reasons why we've gone from a fairly substantial collection to still a large collection, but we've reduced our numbers.
Yeah. It's quality over quantity, and there are some species that you could say benefit from being in racks. Some of those more fossorial nocturnal animals that do perfectly fine in racks, and we're not again. You can see all the racks behind me now, so we're not knocking that at all. But there is certain
you can modify racks for lighting too.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. But there are certain lines to where people, I feel like, cross, keeping things like Burmese pythons and retics and in these rack systems that are quote unquote appropriate. It's just
and appropriate for the age too of the snake, right?
Yeah,
what's appropriate for a juvenile might be not appropriate for an adult, and vice versa, right?
Absolutely.
And then not misguiding or misunderstanding the reality of keeping animals in a veterinary style enclosure or a quarantine enclosure for a period of time for the animal's health benefits, or from a monitoring point of view, so you can look at fecal matter, etc. There's all sorts of things there that you can justify as to why you should keep the way that you're keeping. So there's all sorts of stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be interested in photos of those, Brandon. If you can send us photos of these racks for scrubs and arboreal snakes, that sounds cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Over to Bali.
Is that so? What is this?
So this is Draco volitans. This is
Basilisk?
Draco volitans. This is the flying lizard, common flying lizard.
Yes.
Yeah. So this particular one, my wife saw while we were having lunch. Right. So we're sitting there. We're having breakfast, and we're literally sitting in the hotel, and we're looking across, and she looks across, and she sees like this little yellow thing flicking up on the palm tree. And on the palm tree, it was that they use semaphoring, and they semaphore to each other on the different trees. And then they get into a fight with each other. They glide from one tree to the other, and then the males punch on with each other. Yeah. Fucking awesome, man. It was so cool to see these things, but so fast. So the following morning, I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and before the tropical sun really had a chance to heat the hell out of these things, and then started creeping into the right location, and crept in the right spot and got some photos. So that was the only decent one that I really got of it sitting on a tree. What tended to happen is it would sit there and it would drop its head, and then what was going on is when it dropped its head, that white head would then disappear into the white bark of the tree. So So it made the picture not looking as nice as it was. So, when people are taking photos and stuff like that, take consideration of the horizon. Make sure the horizon's always straight, because if the horizon isn't straight and the trees aren't straight, it's going to look weird. But then also to try and position where the head of the animal is in a way that it pops in the image, because if it just disappears into the image, it means that the image isn't as great. So
Right.
Yeah.
That's an incredible animal, man. Those flying lizards are just
It's a cool lizard.
so cool, man. Those are out of this world.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
song.
It's
Yeah.
dude. It's so funny. Like,
Did you put both blue tongue pictures in, or just this one?
yeah, no. There's a
Go to the other one first. All right.
There you go.
So this is a field guide photo, right? This is your standard field guide photo. So it's showing you what basically the body shape of the animal is and all the rest of it. And I like this. This is great. This is what should be in field guides, these style sort of images, right? But if you go back to the image, the one before it, that tells me as a keeper so much more about what these blue tongues are living in, right? So it's not necessarily good for diagnostics or anything like that, but it tells the person a lot more about what the environment that these blue tongues are living in. So this is tropical open savanna for this particular. These are the blue tongues that sit on the western side of the Cape York Peninsula, doing what he's doing, getting very upset with me. Image is a little bit blown out there, but yeah, it's just gonna be toned down a touch bit to give that sort of thing out there. But then if you go to the next one, then that's just your typical field guide. So I'll take field guide photos of most of the stuff that I see as well, which is sort of along those lines. But then where I have the opportunity, I'll also take photos of the wide angles like that as well.
Yeah.
Different lenses too, right? Like the lens that I use for this is a wide angle lens, whereas the next one is 105mm macro.
So do you use a different lens for these two shots?
Yep.
Okay.
Two different lenses. Yeah. So my camera bag is what I use as my herping bag. I have 5 different sized plant sources inside that, which sort of enable me to curl things up to take photos. And then I've got a snake bite bandage in there, GPS probe kit because I actually do some research stuff as well occasionally, so I've got probes in there as well. There's a set of scales in there, a tape measure in there, my notebook, pen, spare batteries for my torch, a spare torch, a spare globe for the torch, head torch as well, and then I'll usually have water. Depending on where I am, I may have a roll of duct tape. And then I will also have sheet paper as well. I have toilet paper with me as well.
Just out of curiosity, what's the duct tape for?
So duct tape is where I'm in the rainforest, right? So I'm not worried about ticks and leeches and stuff like that. They can chew on me. But if I brush against a giant stinging tree or something like that, I want to get those hairs out. So there's 2 ways you can do it. You can use wax strips, or you can use duct tape. So what you do is you put the duct tape over the top of where you've been stung, and you just tear it off, and that pulls the stinging hairs that have got nematocysts attached to it, the same as what you see in jellyfish. They've got the exact same venom delivery system. You use the duct tape to remove those off you. So yeah.
I like that. That's a new one. I like to go through everybody's hurt bag usually, and that's a new one I've gotten. I
wear shorts too, right? So that's the other thing. Like if I'm wearing longs, in some places I've had to wear longs in certain locations. You can also use the duct tape to duct tape your pants around, so you don't get stuff coming up. Just removing a leech off your nuts is not fun.
No. I've had ticks are more of an issue around here, and we've had to remove some ticks from some private areas, and that's not necessarily
ticks is not fun either.
No.
Methane does sting if you put it on your balls to try and get the tick off.
I think the worst case of ticks I've gotten was I got into a really bad bed of seed ticks, And for anybody that doesn't know, seed ticks are really, really, really tiny ticks. And if you get into a bed of them, you can get covered by the hundreds, if not thousands. And there was one day I was walking through an island area and I felt a weird itch on my foot. I kept scratching. I was like, man, my feet are getting really itchy. And so I took my shoes off and took my sock off and then ended up taking both my socks off. And I had hundreds, if not 1,000 of these little tiny seed ticks absolutely covering both of my feet, in between my toes, like absolutely everywhere, to the point I had to get them all off. I had to take my pocket knife and just scrape all along my feet to get these things off. And
I've used duct tape to get them off.
I didn't think about that duct tape. That's why, like, I might add duct tape to my hurt bag just for that specifically. Like,
duct tape works really well. So.
Yeah, I have to remember that.
All right.
I wouldn't use it on your balls, though.
No, probably not.
So go to the next picture first on this one.
Oh, man.
There we go.
I love that.
All right. So for the people that can't see that, I don't know if you can highlight it, but there's an adder there in the bottom right quadrant of that image.
On this.
So that was pretty cool. So I went over to Germany for the release of the Australasian Leopards book that my wife and I did. So we were flown over to Germany, which was pretty cool. And, you know, I've always wanted to see vipers in the wild. And so we went to a spot in Holland, and we went to this spot and they go, yeah, if you go here, you're guaranteed to get them, right? So 3.5 hours we spent looking. And I ended up ringing the dude and said, hey, what's the go? And he goes, what temperature is it? And I said, oh, it's 19 degrees. He goes, no, they won't be out. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, no, they'll be down in the fens. You've got no chance of getting them. And I was like, just shattered, right? Because he goes, you can get 30 here in half an hour. And like, so I'm walking through, my wife's walking through these sort of tracks through this sort of grass. And the sun was out and all the rest of it. There was no wind, but there was just snakes hadn't come out. Anyway, we're literally walking back to the car. I'm feeling pretty dejected. And I just saw like a little flash of something. And so I just pushed down with my hand, pushed down the grass. And like if something's going into long grass, you can sometimes fold the grass over, and the grass, when you fold the grass down onto the ground, it then pins whatever's in the grass. And then you can just sort of pick through the base of the grass and turn up whatever it is, right? So what I didn't know is that adders have got a completely black belly, right? So when I folded it over, I thought it was like a slow worm or something like that, right? So I've gone, oh, cool, slow worm. Well, that's awesome because I've never seen one of those either. And then quickly realised that it wasn't a slow worm, that it was an adder. And so all these people are walking around in this area, this public park, like, these guys are idiots. They must have lost their keys or something like that. And then I just start going, Wah! And my wife's gone, you fucking kidding me? You have not. We're walking out of here. And I'll go, yep, just got one. Just got one. So, yeah, took a couple of photos, which are in the first pic there. And that snake, to give people a perspective of scale, is about 20 centimeters or 8 inches long total length.
Wow.
So it's a juvenile. And yeah, very, 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 very sprightly individual, shall we say. So that was a bit of fun. No hooks or anything like that, because we're in a place where it would be frowned upon if you were walking around with snake hooks and stuff. So a little bit of manipulation, shall we say, and got a couple of photos, and Yeah, and then there's a photo of the animal in habitat to give people an idea of what it actually lives in. So very,
That's
very cool snake.
that's incredible, man. So this was your first actual viper?
Yeah, that was my first viper I'd ever seen.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah. So pretty good one to start off with.
Yeah,
I mean, a bit of a
absolutely.
classic. So yeah.
Absolutely. Have you talked to Nipper Reed much?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I figured you guys were pretty good friends.
Yeah. Nipper and I get along pretty well. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had him on early on in the Flippin' Tin era because Nipper's one of my favorite people out there, and he's big on the adders in his neck of the woods in Europe.
Yeah, 100%. Nipper, I was talking to Nipper about these, and he was like, "Oh, the temperature's low." He was one of the ones saying the temperature's low. You're going to be really struggling, and I was like, "I'm still trying anyway."
You got one anyways, man. I tell you, like it's so funny, like breaking the norm with some of these species and just snakes in general. It's so funny how things can, no matter the day, you might be able to find something. I have a good buddy of mine. He's from New York, and he was planning a trip by me. It was a quick one. He was going to be here Friday and leaving Sunday. He's coming from New York, and he was coming down in the springtime. And I was finding snakes left and right before he came, and I was like, man, you get down here. He was trying to plan the trip, and I was like, dude, it's gonna be great. It'll be good herping. Like it's popping off right now. And he came down on the one weekend that it dropped down to about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was just cold midday. We're out here just walking WMAs and jackets. It was cold as all get out, and midday it may have touched 60. Maybe, if even that, Fahrenheit. And we were walking out, and I was like, man, I screwed all this up. I couldn't get this dude on a snake, and the biggest thing he wanted to find was a rattlesnake. And on our way out, it was probably 57, 58 degrees Fahrenheit. And on the way out, we find this little tiny baby canebrake rattlesnake having freshly come out from under a tree hollow, like from the bottom. And it was just posted up right outside of that. And I caught it out the corner of my eyes. We were walking by. I mean, the thing was probably, like you said, about 9 inches long, and just had a little button for a rattle on it. And he was over the moon. And I'm like, just because temperatures aren't ideal doesn't mean you can't. Can't get lucky.
So my saying, right, is that I travel a bit for work, right, and sometimes I end up in places that aren't necessarily great for herping, right. But I have two mantras that I've got there with regards to that, right. So the one mantra is I'm not going to find anything sitting in front of the fucking television.
Absolutely.
And the second thing is that there's always a stupid one.
I like that.
That's good.
It may not be the smartest canebrake, but you know what? I don't care if it's the smart one. It doesn't need to be smart. I don't even particularly care if it's pretty or not.
Nope.
Right? Because at the end of the day, right, it's the fucking canebrake that I was chasing. So,
Yeah.
So, is that added to the stupid one? No. It's the one that counts for me. It's the one that I saw. So,
exactly.
So and that little snake, right? Like I saw a shitload of adders 3 days before at an amazing zoo. If you ever get to go to Germany, Reptile Schendig in the south part of Germany, fucking insane, right? Like make sure you visit that zoo. It is incredible. Shout out to Udo and Rebecca, but they took us around and they showed us their adders, and they keep adders outside in pits there, and they had some amazing looking snakes. This particular individual is not a particularly nice looking individual adder.
But that doesn't matter, man.
That one means so much more to me. That's my fucking adder, right?
That's right.
And so this is what I was saying before about the hunting thing, right? So that image is like that one, and the image before is like my trophy for that animal, and it's something it's a trophy image that could potentially go towards at a conservation or something like that as well. Because if someone goes, hey, we need a photo for an interpretation sign or something like that, any chance you get, fuck, knock yourself out, mate. Use it.
Yeah. You're taking shots, just different kinds. Like it's still hunting. And talking about cold weather stuff, Gabe, what was it? 49 degrees when me, you, and Jack flipped that copperhead at your area?
Yeah, I think it was 48 on the dot. We had it was actually a kind of a cold weekend, and we targeted some rainbow snakes, early spring stuff, copperheads and stuff, and it was getting late, and I was like, well, fellas, we got one last 10 site we can hit. I know it's a little cold, but like, do you want to? And Jake's like, yeah, sure, why not?
Because I don't give up, man. But you give me an option, I'm gonna take it. But it was so cold. We were out there in thick jackets. You could see your breath on the head torches we had. Like it was cold, like 48 degrees Fahrenheit. And
I'll go chasing leaf tail geckos like that, well.
Yeah.
I get leaf tails in weather like that.
But we ended up flipping a copperhead under some tin out there, and that it was surprisingly active. It still wanted to kill us.
It was still wiggling the tail around, all twitchy. I was like, man, you've got a lot of energy for being so cold.
Yeah, it was surprising.
And yes, Brandon, we are coming to Arizona at some point to go see crows. My wife is obsessed with rattlesnakes, so we are definitely going to do the trip at some point. So we're thinking if we do it though, right, we go to Florida and then drive to California.
So if you go to Florida, it just so happens it's not too far of a detour to come to my area.
Yeah.
So if you do that, let me and Gabe know, and
100%.
We'll show you a good time in South Carolina.
Sweet. Sounds good. Sounds really good.
That'll be a fun one for sure.
Yeah, Adamantius are pretty high on my list. Adamantius, healers. I saw, man. I was living vicariously through you fuckers.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah, hell yeah. And
Scott, it took me 20 years looking in the area I was looking for those to finally find that thing.
Yeah, and look, man, like them and coral snakes, like I'd love to see a coral snake, even though Smitty can't find one. Yeah, shots fired, eh?
That's right.
So yeah, like I'd love to catch up with people like yourselves, Phil Wolf.
Yeah.
There's so many people over there. Keith and Teresa are up in New Jersey. There's a heap of people that we've sort of corresponded with over the years, and to be able to catch up with them in person would be an amazing opportunity at some point. So we're going to make it happen one day, but fuck, I haven't won Tatslotta yet, so it's a day away. So
it's not a cheap trip at all. That's
you got plenty of couches over here you can crash.
Oh yeah, you got plenty of couches down this way for sure. But yeah, I think me and Gabe shed real man tears whenever we found that Adamantius.
That's good.
I'm surprised you didn't pass out and faint, because I know I almost did.
Dude, I had to like look away for a second because my eyes were getting all watery, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to like take a second here.
Scott, I'm looking at Jake going, Jake, I need you to take the photos. My hands are shaking.
Dude, I couldn't take a still picture, man. I'm lucky I got the 4 out of the 4,000 pictures I took. I'm glad I got 4 with my phone that were adequate enough to be happy with. But my God, man, I took so many pictures because I couldn't sit still, man. Like I was about to throw up.
Yeah, well, I've got a few snake tattoos and shit like that, and I've got some nice photos. I've done line drawings, and so the line drawings are what I've got on me, as opposed to they're like a scientific illustration that I've got as tattoos. So I need to do up a line drawing of that adder head. And my first viper head is my first pit viper head. I'm going to do both of those up as line drawings, and then I'll get those tattoos done as well. So
beautiful.
Yeah,
that'd be incredible, man. Anyway, moving on. This is
moving from one adder to another.
It's a death adder, correct?
Yeah, it's a death adder. So if you go to the next image, so that's how.
Oh my God! For anybody that doesn't notice it right off. And anybody listening on and just audio, you're really going to want to check out the YouTube version of this so you can see all these incredible pictures. That's the head of that individual right there.
Yeah.
That is incredible. So you found it like that exactly?
Yeah, exactly like that.
Wow.
So yeah, this is the advantage of keeping animals in boxes for 30 plus years, right? You get used to being able to pick a death adder out as you're walking past. So I literally walked past, I looked across and gone, oh, adder. And yeah, so and then that image there is I've used a stick to remove a few of the leaves and stuff like that to sort of show a little bit more of the body. But yeah, I never physically touched that snake or anything like that, and I am probably that photo. I'm about 6 inches. The camera lens is about 6 inches from its nose, and I've taken that photo, and I'm lying down on my belly in front of it. So yeah, and yeah, never had to touch the snake or anything like that. Just sat there, and when I decided I was going to leave, I just sort of pushed a few more of those leaves back over the top of it, and just left it there, walked away.
Death adders fascinate me so much, being that they're elapids and this viper body is just incredible to me. They're such interesting snakes.
Yeah, they're amazing animals. Yes, you often see them crossing the roads.
Really?
Yeah, you'll get them crossing the roads at night and stuff like that, but you won't get them doing it during the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's incredible, man. I love that.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's my current favorite pick.
Yes.
At the moment.
Yes.
That is stunning.
Yeah, so that image, I sort of had it in my mind that I was always hoping, because you get sea crates, the sea crates will come out at night and right on sunset and right in. So I was really hoping that I'd turn one up. So that's a place called Midwee in Bali, and it's this rocky beach area, and the on dusk the snakes start to come out. So basically, I went down with my camera ready to go, and that's a 30-second exposure, that one, and it took me. I had 5 goes over the 5 minutes, I suppose it took for the sunset to take away, and yeah, that's what I ended up getting. So what I really like about that particular image is that if you look at the shine on the backside of the snake, you can actually see the reflection of the orange of the sunset in the back of the snake, as backlighting on the actual snake itself, which is pretty cool.
I don't know if y'all can see my cursor, but y'all can see it right here and right here.
So pretty a pretty amazing photo for that one. I reckon I'm pretty happy with that one. So,
and it looks like our boy Sky finally was able to pop in.
Freaking it. I've been watching since the ride home. There's been freaking amazing pictures, man.
Yeah.
Sick stuff.
Yeah. So that one was a pretty good one, that one.
Yeah.
That sucked. Taking that photo fucking sucked though. Like I got fucking absolutely cut to shreds on my feet because I had a blowout on the thong that I was wearing. Thongs being flip flops for you guys. And so
I was confused for a second.
Don't get me wrong. I'll wear a thong as well, right? I got no dramas in that. Fucking Jesus, scare the fuck everything away.
Oh my god.
But yeah, no. In all seriousness, though, so I was wearing a pair of thongs, and I had a blowout which it got sort of half cut in the mud, but there's razor barnacles and shit like that, and coral that's all around these rocks and shit where these snakes are. And yeah, my feet got fucking murdered on the way back. I was like, that's fucked. So
that's pretty wild.
I bled for that photo.
Normally, the Australian terminology is a bit wilder than the American, but in this term, it actually is wilder on our side because when I'm wearing a thong and have a blowout, it means my nuts are hanging out the side of the thong.
Yeah. So I was pretty happy with that one. My wife doesn't like that photo. I fucking love it.
Yeah, I love that photo, man. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So talking about thongs and blowouts, things a little bit different from the US. A lot of people that I've spoken to that have herped Australia talk about the mosquitoes out there and how much
they'll take you
more.
away. They'll fly you away.
I've seen pictures of some people going out there, and I'm like, dude, I thought the mosquitoes were bad here. It seems like they are on a whole new level of.
They bite you through your shirt.
We
so
get
they go
some,
straight.
we get
They go
some of
straight through
those.
your clothes. So like a t-shirt like this is a fairly thick t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
They'll bite straight through that.
Jake, our experience in the Everglades is probably we're closest we're going to get to
Australia.
Right.
I was
like when you go to you hit a wallam swamp or something like that, like a coastal swamp or a mangrove swamp. Fuck.
That's how it was.
That sucks.
That's how it was when me and Sky were in South Florida. We went to like a mangrove area swamp looking for mangrove, salt marsh snakes. And even when we caught the berm on the side of the road, it was like
you couldn't breathe. They were in your mouth.
You couldn't breathe. They would go into your mouth. Like I couldn't sit still for a picture. I look like a fucking idiot in the one picture I have with our berm. It would because I couldn't sit still, man. They would swarm you. I had never experienced mosquitoes like that. And that was the first thing I thought of was like, this is Australia. Like the closest thing we're going to get.
Breathe them in.
Yep. They just suck down your throat. Like I was trying to take a picture of Sky with it and I'm freaking out because like I took a breath and I swallowed probably 17 of them at the same time. And he's like, take the picture. I'm like, I can't breathe.
Fucking good protein for you. Toughen up, princess.
Dude, I pussed out that night big time, man. Like I couldn't handle it, dude.
Depends on where you are too. Like you can be in Central Australia at the right time of year, and the flies, fuck, like your whole fucking shirt. You'll change your shirt color from fucking like blue or fucking yellow to black.
Wow.
Right. Like literally the flies just and like people think it's funny, right? I've got a net, right? And sometimes I will actually wear a fucking net and
oh wow. Yeah, that's
you look real happy there, mate.
I was not happy.
Yeah,
I was happy you found the steak, but no. That was horrible.
Yeah, and as Darren has just said, the fucking sandflies and the midgies fucking suck ass as well. Particularly in Darwin, high tide, same as at Eipper and shit like that. The same thing. It's just fucking shit house.
We call them no-see-ums out here, but they're these tiny little gnats, and over just like kind of like what you're saying, but like in the salt in the Gulf Marsh and area, and over here in the Gulf.
Yeah, midges are the same. You can't see them; they're so fucking small.
It will make you want to rip your
stings.
skin off. Yeah,
it bites and stings, and you got like a little bit of an itch, and then it just sort of goes away to nothing, right? Whereas the mozzies, they're like a slow burn, right? They don't hurt you so much as they're biting you. It's later on. So
we get the sand gnats around here are real bad. Like I fish a lot, and I fish the early morning, especially this time of year. We were catching some sheephead this weekend, and the sand gnats were ungodly. Like the guy I fish with, he smoked cigarettes, and I was like, dude, just smoke them while you got them, dude. Like it was the only thing that kept them out of your face, man. Just like I was wearing a hoodie and it was like 70 degrees and I had my hood up, zipped up to my face because it was so bad. Just dude, it was horrible. Changing subjects a little bit. Thank you so much for the pictures, Scott. Those are
that's all right.
You are an incredible photographer. There's a
lot of shit on the fucking cutting room floor too, mate. Don't worry about that. So,
yeah.
You just got to get out there and give it a crack,
Yeah, absolutely. Let's transition a little bit to how you kind of got into writing some of your books. I mean, what made you start that? This is one of many that that
Yeah.
you've written.
Yeah, there's a few there. So essentially what happened was I started off with some captive care books. I had the opportunity to write on keeping venomous and also keeping frogs as part of a series that was being done. And then from that, I was always I've always sort of contributed to field guides and stuff like that. But I was like, well, there was an opportunity for a series that was being done, and they were like, oh, we would like to do a dangerous creatures book, which is the second edition of the first edition of that one that's there.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that you would be interested in assisting? And I said, well, I'll do it on one condition. I said, I'll do it if I get the opportunity to do a snake book, right? Because there was a need to do Snakes of Australia and a small guide that was reasonable for people. Keep going. It's not that one. It's the next one after that one there. And so there was an opportunity there to put that one together. And so we did those, and they were very well received. Basically, they cover all of the Australian species of snake and frog in those two cases. And it provides the basic ways to tell the difference between them all. But it's the glove box guide designed for your farmer or for your naturalist or something like that, right? It's not so much a scientific style book. Whereas if you go to the Princeton guide that you saw previous to that, I think it was, that one is a proper field guide. That's a field guide to the Snakes of Australia. So that's got dichotomous keys in it. It's got maps in it. Lead author in it is obviously my wife, who is an absolute fucking gun. And
Your wife's a legend on top of you, man. I mean,
100%, man. 100%. No, she's 100% there, and like that's a pretty special book in a lot of ways too, right? It's the first reptile guide that Princeton's produced from outside of the US in like 20 years as well. So it's a bit of a testament to our efforts there. And I suppose the other thing I just want to tell people as well, and it might stun some people here about this, is that neither my wife or I finished high school.
No,
we haven't got a university degree. We are just passionate people, right? And so if people out there are sitting there going, hey, I've gone and done a trade, or I've done this, or I've done that, doesn't mean to say that you can't fucking contribute to the collective knowledge of herpetofauna that's around on this planet, right?
Absolutely.
You can use your passion and you can use your drive, and by recording and writing the information down and remembering it and doing that sort of stuff, you can really sort of add to that collective knowledge that people have. And it's just something that follow your passion. Don't listen to the people that say you can't, right? Find the people that say that you can, and then ask them how to push forward on those things, right? And they're the ones that sort of get you in your corner, and they're the ones that sort of help you drive forward with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know you got to get rolling here shortly, so I just
I do. I've got a meeting, but so
no worries, man. I just kind of wanted to scroll through these real quick just to show everybody all the books I've written.
Can I ask my bonehead question since we're on the books really
Please.
quick?
Go for it.
All right. So you being the man, the myth, and the legend, and having the book knowledge and all the credibility behind you, does it ruffle your skin a bit knowing that in Spokane, Washington, there's a man named Nick Mutton with the complete carpet python title, and you're over here in the Mecca with all the carpet pythons, knowing you could probably write that same book?
No, you know what? Right, I probably couldn't. Right. My passion for Australian reptiles is sort of all encompassing, but my passion for pythons over my passion for elapids is chalk and cheese. Right. I do have other passions within the reptile sort of area and stuff like that, and so does my wife. Like, my wife's really into colubrids. I like colubrids as well, but like, I got a passion for skinks as well, and frogs and stuff like that as well. And look, Nick,
you can't narrow yourself down to the one species.
No, I don't want to narrow myself down to one
cool
species.
Stuff.
There's a lot of stuff out there, but like the book that Nick and Justin put together is a pretty incredible book.
Oh yeah, I got it.
And you know, we were lucky enough to provide images for that book as well. And you know, Nick reached out to plenty of people here in the States, in Australia, obviously, around the country and so did Justin, to try and get some additional local knowledge to the stuff that they did in trips to come over here as well. You know, it's a great book. And I don't have this fucking territory pissing match or something like that, if you will, that somebody's written a book on something from my country. Like, fucking good on you. You've done a great job, and you know the book's great. It's a fantastic book, and that's why at the end of the day there was a more complete carpet that came out, because there was so much more information to provide, but it was also a great solid book to go with and start.
No, yeah, it is a good book. That was morely of a joke, if anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know it was, but that's all right. At the same time, too, right? It's good to say, it is good to sort of, you know, give people the kudos that they deserve, because what people don't understand is how much fucking work goes into a book.
Oh, you can only imagine how much more work it took for him to be all the way across the pond versus if he were in
100%.
Australia.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a slight against Nick or what Nick and Justin did.
And look, too, right? I disagree with their taxonomic arrangement too.
Hey, and
that's really why I asked you, is because I know you have some disagreements with a few things.
Yeah, but I'm happy to have those disagreements, but it's said with love and passion too, right? It's not something said that I think they're necessarily wrong. I think what it is that what they deem as being a species versus what I see as being a species in regards to how the genetics demonstrates it, I see it slightly differently, right? I think that there's a lot of, you know, in that particular case of the carpet pythons, there's a lot of gene flow between those populations, which has then caused muddying of those gene pools. And so you've got these phenotypes that come out that have got this admixture of different sort of populations, and that's reflective of what they are. Now, at some point in time, in some cases they were separated and then come back together. In other cases, they've always been in contact, and where they've always been in contact, they've basically always been the same thing. The fact that you've got that there's some behavioural differences and ecological differences in the same species between the north and south of their range that can be explained by geographical barriers and geographical influence and habitat influence, doesn't necessarily mean that they're a different species, right? In different places, the distribution of melanin in people is different, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are a different species or a different subspecies. It's not as neat and as tidy as that or anything like that, but yeah, we took the position that because the genetics doesn't necessarily support different subspecies, in my opinion, with the exception of McCarthy, we have retained them as geographical races. Okay, so a race is a good way of describing something that it might have a phenotypic trend, if you will. There may be some population structure to it, but there's no genetic difference. Padraig node jungles and papuans are the same thing. You know, Papua from New Guinea and Australia was interconnected 5,000 years ago.
Yeah,
it was the same place, right? Still on the soil shelf, and there was massive gene flow 20,000 years ago. So to say that just because there's a separation now doesn't necessarily say that separation's always been there. So,
and just because in captivity one's black and yellow and one's kind of brown doesn't mean they're.
Those gelatins, they do look so similar to Papuans in the pattern, man. It's freaking wild.
Yeah. Well, look at cane breaks, right? Like we're going to say acrochordatus for life, right? And you know,
I'm gonna die on that hill, Scott. Watch your mouth, all right?
Yeah, right. So no. So what I'm saying, right? So you get, and I love it, right? I think acrochordatus is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, right, it's a color variation of a timber rattlesnake. There is no doubt that timbers and acrocordatus are very closely related, right?
Absolutely.
And the fact that they do have gene flow between those populations where the two phenotypes sort of do abut each other, and you get those sort of animals that look a little from column A and a little from column B, then it probably does demonstrate that they aren't necessarily different subspecies, but they are a different phenotype. And so you can have the name canebrake, you can have the name acrocordatus. It just doesn't necessarily need to have a different scientific name designation.
And that's
I
kind of, I think that's kind of where we lay with it now. Is like, we don't really call them obviously, taxonomically speaking, we can't factually call them atrocaudatus, but around here, I'll correct anybody that comes from up north. I'm like, they're canebrakes down here. We call them canebrakes. Shut
and
up.
I guarantee that if you're doing a field guide to the snakes of the eastern United States, right, and you put a photo, you have the opportunity to put a couple of photos in. You're going to have a photo of a typical looking timber, and you're going to have a typical canebrake in there. Exactly. Right, they're going to be the two photos that you put in there, right? Or you might, if you can only have one photo in there, you might throw a canebrake on the cover or something like that, so you've still got those two pictures in there, so to speak. So,
scientifically speaking, will they be the same? Yes. In our hearts, are they different? Absolutely.
Phenotypical difference across the habitat, man, and the environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to apply a different scientific name to them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can use races for those things.
Yeah.
And races are something that there's got a lot more plasticity to it, and you can apply that much more locally. And you see it with people like when they're talking about lepidus or something like that, right? And they go, "Oh, yes,
rat snakes here in North America. That's the huge problem." I feel like that is the perfect race thing. Is like the East Coast rat snakes, freaking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Not much of a pattern.
Yeah, and that's you can do the same thing with lepidus and shit like that, and go, hey, this one here is this lepidus is from the Sky Islands. This lepidus is from this particular hill, or the Mitchellii and Pyrrhus and shit like that have got people can go, oh yeah, I can tell because the color of that thing is probably from that particular rock cut or whatever, right? So yeah, cool.
Wonderful, man. Well, we won't keep you any longer. Thank you so much, Scott, we'll have to do another episode because I feel like
we barely got started.
I was about to say, I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface of this, so we'll plan another one. But thank you so much for clearing some of your schedule to be with us this evening / morning for you. We will absolutely do another episode. But if anybody wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so the best place to if they want to listen to more of my gibberish, Cold-Blooded Contributions podcast. So that's one there that we've been doing now for about 12 months. My wife is the absolute superstar there. She's doing all the editing and all the rest of it. I'm technically incompatible in regards to that. I just can't make it fucking work. So yeah, jump on the Cold-Blooded Contributions thing. Facebook, Nature for You, and Cold-Blooded Contributions, as well as my private thing. I'm on Instagram as well. So yeah, feel free to reach out at any time. I don't really care who reaches out to me or anything like that. Yeah. Usually Facebook's probably the easiest way to get me, or maybe Instagram. But yeah, we also do reptile books and stuff like that as well. So people are interested in that sort of stuff, more than happy to send books across the globe.
Yeah, I think I need to hit you up for some of those for sure.
Postage out of Australia ain't cheap, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I think I might be able to bite the bullet for that. Yeah, thanks a ton, man. I can honestly say when me and Sky first started this podcast a year ago, you were like one of the first people that popped in the chat, and I was like, holy shit, Scott Eipper is listening to this podcast, everybody tighten up.
Yeah.
So, man, I'm just as much as a loose prick as you guys are for sure.
Oh, yeah, I'm not denying that, but we respect the hell out of you, man.
Yeah.
We
Mate, I'm nothing to be respected. I'm just another fucking person. I'm no better than anyone else that's either in the chat or on this thing or listening to this. I'm just another fucking person. And, you know, at the end of the day, right, we can always, I got told a thing from one of my mentors said to me many years ago, he goes, just listen to people. You don't need to be the fucking expert. Think about how much you know now versus how much you thought you knew when you've been keeping for a while or herping for a while, right? And that's the reality, right? You come into this new and you're happy to be new, right? And you expect that you don't know that much, right? But 5 or 6 years in, you start to think that you fucking know a thing or two, right? If you go back and you look back at yourself 10 years later and you look at that person that's been keeping animals or chasing animals for 5 years, how much knowledge does that person have compared to what you have now, right? And the answer is that person knew fuck all back then, but you thought you were an expert, right? As you get older, it doesn't fucking change. The older you get, the longer you do it, the more you realize how little you actually know.
100%.
And the more you understand that and embrace that, is the more that you start to embrace the fact that you become open to new ideas, right? And you happen to listen to that person that's never been herping before because they haven't got the fucking rose-colored glasses that you do, right? That jumps to that conclusion. Oh, yeah, the reason I didn't see anything is because the moon was like this, or the fucking weather did this, or, you know, I wasn't using the right head torch or whatever. Might have been something else that was the reason why you weren't seeing those animals that night, or that day. And so you're less inclined to jump to conclusions the more experienced you become. And, you know, I suppose that's the one thing that I try to expose to other people is, you know, listen to others and don't necessarily disregard what they say. And, you know, take it with a grain of salt. Don't believe everything you fucking hear either, right? Don't believe everything I say or anyone else, right? Go out and experience for yourself. Learn for yourself. But do it in such a way where you can learn from other people's mistakes as well.
Beautiful. Well, at that, I think that's a great point to sign you off, man. We certainly appreciate it. We won't take up any more of your time. Thank you, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott.
Scott, have a good morning.
Will do.
I almost said night. That's so confusing. They're
yeah, it's he lives in the future, and it's crazy. It's crazy. That was man, I loved that. That was a great episode.
I've got to get him to send me a signed copy of the book now.
Yeah, I gotta hit him up for.
Hey, you let me know when you go to order, and I'll go in halfsies.
Hey, we'll go halfsies. But Sky, you want to make it a 3-way? Come on,
might as well.
Yeah, hell. But anybody listening to this audio, please check out the actual YouTube video of this. The pictures that Scott sent us are incredible. Very, very.
This pics looks sick.
Yeah, very, very.
I'm not gonna lie. I was jumping in my fucking car watching you guys fucking look at these pictures and just fumble over nothing, not knowing what the fuck any of them were. And I'm like, fuck, oh shit, fuck, yeah, why? Wanting to ask so many fucking questions.
Yeah, dude.
Fucking Jigsaw, is that a fucking basilisk? No, Jake, it's a fucking Draco.
He said Draco, and for some reason I knew it wasn't, but my brain went to that because of the scientific name for some reason, and I just sounded like an idiot. So there's that. I don't know everything.
Oh, I'm not trying to pronounce Latin on this thing. I'm gonna
we're gonna leave that to Scott for sure.
No, that was fucking sick. His pictures and his description of like how he took every shot, I thought was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Do we want to get into write-ins, or do we want to leave them for next episode? Because we're pushing.
I legit just got home before I hopped on here. I got to do so much shit, dude. It's retarded.
So tonight, y'all, sorry, we wanted to leave enough time for Scott and to get as much out of that as we could. So any of the write-ins that y'all gave us, thank you so much. Please keep them coming. We are going to save them for the next episode because we're 2.5 hours in. We don't want to push this to 3. It's getting it'll be we have several, but we don't want to push this past 3 hours again like usual or like we were at one point. So we're gonna we're gonna leave this here. We will not forget about all the ones that y'all gave us already. We will get to them, but this was why I let everybody know who wrote in that this may or may not happen tonight because we wanted to leave plenty of time. But we're also trying to not make 3-hour podcasts anymore. So we're gonna leave y'all here at about 2.5 hours. We certainly appreciate everybody that tuned in for the live. I know we had several people very excited to have Scott on, and we were one of those as well. But we will cover your write-ins the next episode. I promise. We're probably due for a 3-on-3 here coming up soon. So maybe next episode we'll focus on some write-ins and do a 3-on-3 with the boys and kind of come up with come talk about what we're gonna do for the year. Jack will be down here next weekend. Not this weekend, but next. So maybe might have some stories for that. Maybe you'll see if he's available to come on, hang out. And we did get to do some herping with old Preston this weekend or 2 weekends ago. I can't remember. He was here with me picking up some stuff and we got some herping done. Found a few things that were fun. I found a black swamp snake at my spot, so that was a new species for that
really
road.
Early in the year for it too.
Yeah, it was cold too, man.
Yeah,
it was cold. It was like 68, 69 degrees when we found it, and
I was shocked.
It was surprising. So we found the black swamp. We found a copperhead, my first copperhead of the year, surprisingly. Got a ribbon snake and a couple of DORs. Can't remember what else, but like it was so weird because like we hit the road earlier because it was warmer. Sun went down. It cooled off a lot. We didn't really find anything but a couple of DORs. So I was like, all right, let's roll out. But man, we had to get back to prep some stuff for him to leave the next day. But man, on our way out, it was like as soon as the lights went out, it didn't matter that it was below 70, man. It was in the span of 5 minutes, we found, I think it was live snake, dead snake, live snake, dead snake, like all in the span of 5 minutes on this road. I kept pulling over, slamming on brakes. I thought a massive dog was about to attack us because I'm horrified of dogs that I don't know. It was very hectic, like 5-10 minutes that we were actually finding snakes, but unfortunately I feel like we should have stayed out like at the other spot, but it was getting late and we had to prep Preston for heading back the next day. So, but it was nuts. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to Jack coming down next weekend. I think we're gonna have a hell of a time. Weather's looking prime. We're gonna get some rain during the week. It's gonna be cloudy when he gets here. I think we're gonna kill it. So really excited. Gabe's a bitch for having to work and not being able to come hang out. So whatever.
It's all right. I'll send you pictures of my my little outing I'm gonna do Saturday.
Good. We're gonna do
make Saturday my first herp outing since I'm gonna actually have a day off.
Nice. Good.
Go hit something.
Good. Hopefully we have plenty of things to talk about next episode. I think we'll probably plan a little 3-on-3, no guests, and just kind of talk about the year and plans going forward. Maybe have Jack come in if he's available, come hang out with the boys.
Jack me off.
Oh God. With that, this has been episode 25 of Flippin' 10 with Scott Eipper. We can't thank Scott enough. But we will see y'all in 2 weeks for episode 26. Again, thank you everybody who tuned in for the live, and we'll see y'all next time.